Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Low Life Plays coming at you with another deck tech here, and it is just as gross as everybody says it will be. You know, it's a pretty wild elf commander. So, Voja, Jaws of the Conclave. If you are unfamiliar with this monster in a pod, it is two a red, a green, and a white for a 5/5 vigilance, trample, ward 3. That should be enough, but it's not. It keeps going. Whenever Voja attacks, doesn't even have to deal combat damage. You put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control, and you draw a card for each wolf you control. So it's card draw, it's a buff, it's a huge threat, and it's super fun. So let's just jump into this bad wolf. So what we're going to do is play a lot of elves, right? I mean, that's the big thing here. That's how we get the counters. So we're going to run a lot of these low to the ground elves, like Llanowar Elf, Elvish Mystic, Arbor Elf. Oh, got ahead of ourselves there. Boreal Druid. If it taps for mana and it's 1, we want it. Because our overall game plan here is just dump a bunch of elves into play, get Voja out as fast as we can, start smacking face, and it's the ward 3 makes it so you can just accelerate so fast that most times if you can get Voja out turn 3, they can't even do anything. And then Voja comes out and just starts attacking, and you are a huge threat. So Finnorn Elves, same kind of stuff. Getting into the 2 CMC Elves, we get a little bit more, some flexibility here, still lots of mana. So this one taps for 1 of any color, of any land you can produce. But if it has a +1/+1 counter on it, why don't you just add 3? And what does Voja do? Puts counters on it. So it makes it super easy. Devoted Druid, wild card, right? So you gets -1/-1 counters on it, but then Voja can get rid of those with the +1/+1 counters on it, and you can just get this thing just really going. Leaf Crowned Visionary. So this gives you even more card draw. It buffs even further. Really, really excellent for 2. Elvish Warmaster. Why not just have more elves, right? Just how about whenever you play one or more elves, they enter the battlefield, you just get another elf. It only triggers once each turn, but that's fine. And then it has an awesome overrun effect where you give them +2/+2 all your elves, and they get Death Touch. So it's also just really nice for that. Bramblewood Paragon. So whenever each other warrior creature you control comes into play with an additional +1/+1 counter on it, which has some synergy, but what it's really in here for is it gives all creatures with +1/+1 counters on them trample, which is just so good. Because, Voja is going to get big. Yeah, sure. But so is everything else. Paradise Druid. It's just a nice little 2-mana dork. We're good with that. Priest of Titania. Awesome. It just adds for all your elves. Not even just yours, it's all elves on the battlefield, so if you're lucky enough to go against other elves or changelings or whatever, you might, pick up an extra mana or 2 along the way. Pretty good. Llanowar Loam Speaker, this one's a little bit more of a flex slot. I just wanted another 2 CMC, kind of round that out a little more. It does tap for any mana, so that's nice, but it can also animate lands, which can be cool. Just pretty good. Just more elves. Getting that density in there is important. Gyre Sage, one of the most important elves that we have, because it gives us mana equal to the +1/+1 counters on Gyre Sage. So really, really strong. Love this type of an effect. We have a few more that are similar, like Marwyn. Right now we're getting into our 3 CMC elves, and this one is just crazy. Whenever another elf ETBs, it just gets a counter, and then Voja will be putting counters on, and it taps for its power. Just such a huge card. Gladrian Brigade. We're going to just get so much mana. Like, so much mana so quickly from cards like that being able to drop this will expand our board, give us more elves, and then each of these that get squad, like every time we do that bonus when we cast it, it'll just drop a huge buff, drop a bunch of bodies that are getting buff from Voja. Really, really strong. Love Gladrian Brigade. Rumor Gatherer, this one is another flex slot. I think it's great. It just is extra card draw. I mean, Voja is card draw too, but we're not running a ton of wolves, which we'll get into the wolves later. We are running some. We're not just going with Voja as the only wolf. Viridian Joiner, same thing, right? It taps for green equal to its power, so it can just really accelerate very, very fast. Wood Elves, an elf. Let's go get a land. That seems pretty good. Let's get a forest. Seems fun for me. Circle of Dreams Druid. Let's just have a Gaia's Cradle, right? That seems good. We go pretty wide pretty quick. We run a lot of board interaction to protect ourselves, so we can oftentimes go pretty wide without having to worry too much about being wrathed, because we have run so much protection, and then we have so much mana, so we can keep it up. So we could run stuff like Circle of Dreams Druid. Elvish Archdruid, same thing, just taps for a ton of mana, also buffs. More flexible cards, right? Azuri, Renegade Lita. This one can regenerate another target elf, you know, so maybe they're going to blow up Marwyn or any of these other really problematic threats that are just ramping us out of control. It also gives them +3/+3 and trample until end of turn, so that's pretty nice. You know, you like that, you love to see it. Let's get some more lands. Farhaven Elf. Evolution Witness. We're putting +1/+1 counters on things all the time. So just whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Evolution Witness, just get a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Very strong, synergistic. It's an elf. We run it. Selvala. Selvala is, I mean, it's a wild commander on its own, so just naturally finds a home here. We don't often enter the battlefield with a creature with huge power, but we do pay a green and tap and just make a ton of mana. So that's what Selvala's here for. Tyvar the Pummeler. So the foil on this one makes it a little difficult to read, but essentially what it can do is you can tap another untapped creature you control, make Tyvar a little harder to remove. It gains indestructible. You can tap it. Pretty nice, you know, survivability on its own. But its big thing here is just that crazy buff you can give things. You know, it's just another backup plan. If Voja is getting removed a bunch, you know, it's nice to have some redundancy and ways to just use all this mana that we're probably going to get. Even if Voja's not buffing them, we're running Elves. So we're going to have access to a lot of mana regardless. But this is just nice to have those backup effects to just start overrunning all the time. Rexage. It's an elf. It blows things up. It's really cool. I like it. Rishkar, Pima Renegade. So this one, really in here, it just gives you a little bit of counters, but I like that each creature with a counter on it you control can tap for mana, because we do have elves, like, you know, one we just talked about, Rexage. Doesn't tap for mana, but with Rishkar, now everything can tap for mana as we get counters on them, so it just has some interesting synergistic effects that we love to see. Beast Whisperer, let's draw cards. Card draw is never bad. You know, you always want to have a ton of card draw, so Beast Whisperer is naturally at home here in his elf home. Armorcraft Judge, let's draw cards for, how about each creature with a +1/+1 counter on it? Seems pretty fun. Baloth, this one is wild. I mean, I didn't realize how this card had kind of, I don't know if it's been expensive for a while, but it is a really fun effect, especially in this list. So, creatures your opponents control with power less than Baloth are goaded, which pretty quickly gets very high. You know, like one swing with Voja and a few elves and this, and you're just like, okay, now everything that your opponents control is goaded. And whenever a goaded attacking or blocking creature dies, you make treasure. So just so much fun stuff with this guy. And you get to play red elves. That's pretty fun. Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. Time to bring some snacks to this just straight up beatdown. So when it enters, or, you know, if you cast it, you can search. So he's a tutor on a stick. He's an elf. It's super fun. Love it. Really can get some nice stuff. We are running a Soul Ring. This is just, you could not. You know, I don't really need this. I don't think this deck really, but I just want to be able to get Voja out as fast as possible. And that's why I'm running Soul Ring. Just because it's, you know, it's a Soul Ring. Why not? I'm running the Great Henge. This is another flex slot. You could definitely not include this. I'm kind of on the fence about it. It's really strong, but, you know, it might be a little more win more, but it does gain you life, draw you cards. It's strong. It puts counters. It synergizes very well. But honestly, you could put Great Henge in most decks that have any sort of big butts or go wides. So, because it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So if you can get this reduced even a little bit, it's still super strong. So that's kind of the main reason, is it does a lot of stuff. And, you know, that we want to do a lot of stuff. So, seems good. Growing Rights of Itlimoc. It's Gaia's Cradle, right? So when it enters, you look at the top 4. You can reveal a creature card from among them, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library, and then at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, you get to flip it, and it flips into just what you need it, right? It's just boom. Cradle of the Sun. Tap for green for each creature you control. Just super, super good. Really, really easy to flip, so definitely just a fun card to have. That gets us out of some of this area, so now we're running some haste enablers, because sometimes, you know, maybe Voja's not looking like it's going to come down on turn 3, maybe turn 4. So this way kind of makes up for it, because we'll just give it haste, and that way when it does come down, just get value immediately, right? You build up the board, drop a haste enabler, there you go. So we're running Fires of Yamimaya. I'm running Rhythm of the Wild. It's nice with you can't counter Voja now, because that's the biggest way that people typically get rid of it. Because once it's in play, the Ward 3 really makes it annoying to kind of get around. So countering Voja is often one of the ways to stop it. So we're running Rhythm of the Wild, Rising of the Day. So we're running just those as our haste enablers. I'm running Maskwood Nexus. It makes shapeshifters, which is good. You know, changeling is nice. We get elves, we get wolves, but the big thing is here it can really just draw you a lot of cards because our deck is leaning more towards the elf side, but this can shift that favor so now we can draw a bunch of cards and have all of our elves, and it can make them if we need them. But really, it's in here for making our elves into wolves as well. Super, super valuable. Love that. We are running some shapeshifters. So we're running Masked Vandal. It's removal. You know, it's excellent. I like it. It's everything we need. Realm Walker lets us access the top of our library so we can just, you know, keep getting elves off the top. That's pretty good. We'd love to see that. Mirror Entity, kind of in the same line as when we're going through our Maskwood Nexus. You know, until end of turn, creatures you control have base, power, and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So you can use all that huge mana because they have a lot of counters on them, but now we can just make them huge, and then the counters just stack up on top of that huge whatever mana we sunk into this, and then make them wolves, make our elves wolves, or wolves elves. It's so good. Really, really strong. You could also run like Atla Palani in here. You know, that could also work if you shifted a little bit more. It could work, but I just went just straight elves, straight wolves. That's what we're running. Torian Mauler. It's just a good changeling, right? I mean, it just gets big on its own, and then it gets even bigger with Voja, so we love to see it. We are running this as a wolf, though. Pyreheart Wolf. This one is wild, right? So whenever it attacks, each creature you control just can't be blocked this turn, except by 2 or more creatures, and it has Undying itself. So really, really excellent. It just makes our board even more annoying to get through. It's a wolf, so super synergistic. Comes down for 3, really easy. Cemetery Prowler. I mean, it just makes our stuff cost less, and it's graveyard hate, and it's a wolf. Like, it hits so many boxes. It's a vigilant 3/4, that's great. Whenever it enters or attacks, you exile a card from a graveyard, and then spells you cast cost just 1 less to cast if they share a card type with cards exiled with Cemetery Prowler, so you get rid of a creature, and then boom, now you're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good there. Tolsimir, Friend of Wolves, so he is an elf, which is great, right? That's cool. But this just, when it enters, you make a Voja. Like, you make Voja Friend of Elves. It's a legendary 3/3. That's really cool and dandy, but it's not really what Tolsimir's in here for. What it's really in here for is whenever a wolf enters, you can just start having Voja fight things, or having any of our elves just fight things, or not elves, but, you know, our elf wolves, if that happens. But it's really in here just when our wolves come into play, they fight something, and you gain 3 life. So that's pretty cool. We enjoy that. Wolfbriar Elemental. This card goes really well with Tolsimir, right? You have a ton of mana, a ton of access to mana. You just multi-kick it a ton, fight a bunch of things, and even if you don't win those fights, you gain a ton of life. Really excellent card here, and then it can also just draw you a bunch of cards. If all you have is Voja in play and a Wolfbriar Elemental in hand, you can just go Voja, Wolfbriar Elemental, kick it for however much you can, draw some cards. I've never felt bad pulling Wolfbriar Elemental. It has really nice stuff. It's just board state out of nowhere with all the mana we run. We are running, you know, some more stuff that aren't exactly wolves, aren't exactly elves. We are running Kutzel, Malamute Exemplar. It's because we don't want people blowing stuff up on our turn, right? And you could run other effects like this too. You know, you could definitely lean more into like a Staxier aspect of it, and I've thought about it, but Voja's already really strong, so I thought I'm just going to lean this way and have this, because it also draws us cards, right? Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Pretty easy for us to do, and it has a lot of nice effects, so that's why we're running it. Annie joins up. This is wild. You know, you could also put a Roaming Throne in here, but I only have 1 Roaming Throne. It's in another list at the moment. But Annie joins up. When it comes in, it just can deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, so it's nice removal. And it also just comes with such a delicious effect here. If a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, just do it again. You know, Voja, make things super big. Draw so many cards. You know, fight so many wolves. Do a ton of different stuff. It's really, really strong. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. This is more just, I think it has some really nice synergy. There's a lot of text there, but essentially you can spend mana as though it were any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. And what it's really, at least my idea of why I put Agatha's in here, is 1, it's graveyard hate, which is great. But also, it just gives all of our creatures with +1/+1 counters on it all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So if you exile an opponent's creature that has a really good activated ability, awesome. Or if one of our key pieces, one of our big ramp things, or one of our really powerful activated abilities is in the graveyard, Now it's on everything. So it can really do a bunch of really interesting things. That's why it's in here. I run 2 cards that can really just accelerate our game plan and just wipe stuff out. I love the Shalai Halar. It's so fun to just have a flying Vigi 9 or 4 cost, just Naya Elf. Awesome. But really, whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, just deal that much damage to target opponent. So oftentimes when you have Shalai and Halar, you can just swing with a big board, kill someone with the damage, kill someone with the combat damage, and then it's a 1v1 now. So really, really strong. And then to just double up on that effect, we are going to be running All Will Be One, which just does the same thing. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or a player, it deals, All Will Be One, deals that much damage to target opponent, creature and opponent controls, or planeswalker. So very flexible. You know, this one is really only a target opponent. So this one you can police the board a little more if you really needed to. But this is in here. It's just another, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to deal so much damage. And we do have some I win cards, right? If we have a huge board state, you can just go Chroma's Will. And just, if you control your commander when you cast this bad boy, let's turn some of this down, eh? Yeah, if you control your commander as you cast a spell, just choose both. Creatures now have flying, vigilance, double strike, or they get lifelink, indestructible, protection. And, you know, you're going to have Voja in play. That's the whole point of running this build, is you're trying to get Voja out there, huge board around Voja, swing with it, and just beat face. And a Chroma's Will, just, yeah, it's you know, when you see this card, it's typically because you're gonna win, or you're gonna go for a win. Same thing with Full Throttle. This is a flex slot. You know, you don't have to run this. I'm just trying it out, right? I think the idea of Voja and having so many extra combats just seems really good. So, you know, try it out, see what it does. Now we get into some board protection. We're gonna run Boros Charm, give our stuff permanence indestructible. That's really nice. Has flexibility, so that's cool. You can give Voja double strike if you wanted. Heroic Intervention, very classic. Dawn's Truce, real, you know, just it's Heroic Intervention white. T-Pro, don't need to have T-Pro, but I just want to have as much protection for my board as I can, because we are just committing so heavily to our creatures that having a wipe just is not fun. It just kind of sucks. So being able to just go to Fairy's Protection really rocks. Inspiring Call draws us cards and makes our stuff indestructible. Yes, please. That sounds pretty cool. I'm a pretty big fan there. So we'll take it. Clever Concealment. Nothing beats tapping out and then convoking this, right? So your creatures can help cast this. If you don't know convoke, each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 colorless or 1 mana of that creature's color. So it's really fun to just be able to tap out. They think you're not there, and then boom, Clever Concealment out of nowhere. But Clever Concealment, excellent, excellent card. I'm running Galadriel Ambush. So seems good, you know. For 4 mana, you can just create X 1/1 green elf warriors, and where X is the number of attacking creatures, you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-elves. So has a little bit of, you know, if you're going up against an elf player, yeah, whatever. But odds are probably you're not doing that. So it's really excellent for us. And it just, even if you are, you make so many elves, and then just the crackback from Voja is intense. So let's get into our lands, right? That's what you're here for, not the deck. The lands. The lands make the deck. We're going to play Cavern of Souls. We're just going to make our Voja uncounterable, which is super good for us. Because like I said earlier, that's a really good way to slow down Voja, is you just counter it. It's hard to interact with the Ward 3, so let's make it so they just have to. We're running Command Tower, you know, classic. We're just run it. We're also going to run Mutavault. It's a land, and it's an elf, and it's a wolf. It's just great. And it can get huge too. You animate it, and then it's just super, super good for us. So synergistic. We're also going to run Wirewood Lodge. I mean, just pay a green, untapped target elf. Wild. And it's a land that comes in untapped for 1 mana. So either way, doesn't even slow you down that much outside of the color fixing aspect, but its payoff is worth it. Shifting Woodlands, not really sure. I just like this card. Not sure if it's going to be a great fit here. I think it has some flexibility too. I'm not super keen on the entering the battlefield part tapped unless you control a forest, but I do really enjoy its Delirium, right? So it can become a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard until end of turn. It can be nice, you know, it can really flex around, and it doesn't really hurt our mana base to have it in there. We're going to run Disciple of Freyalise. It's an elf. It gains life, draws cards. It can be an excellent just source when we have a big creature. We can blow something up and draw cards, gain life, really just, you know, catch back up if we are behind. We're going to run Shinka, Blood-Soaked Keep. I'm really running this because, I mean, why not? It's a untapped red source, and it can just give something first strike. So if someone is, maybe in the early stages when Voja isn't huge yet, you can protect it by giving it first strike. So that's nice. I enjoy that aspect of it. We're running Three Tree City. That is blinding. So yeah, Three Tree City. Love it. Essentially, you just choose a creature type, elves, and then you pay 2, choose a color, add an amount of mana equal to the number of creatures of that chosen type. Pretty easy to get there with elves and Three Tree. Jetmere Garden, just, it's Naya. We're going to run it. I am running Razorverge Thicket, Fortified Village, Temple Garden, and Hushwood Verge as my white-green sources. I'm going to run Needleverge, Pathway, Fury Calm Snarl, Spectator Seeding, Sun Billow Verge, Battlefield Forge, Inspiring Vantage, and Sacred Foundry as our white reds. And then when we get into our big baddie greens, we're going to run Stomping Ground, of course. Thorn Spire Verge, yes. Spire Garden. That's really it for those. Then we're just going to go into some basics. We are leaning heavily in green because we just really want to make sure that we have access to green first and foremost, right? We need to play our 1-drop greens, and then we're running 4 plains, 3 mountains, and that really breaks it down for our elf deck, right? Super fun. It is really, really strong. I understand the hate that Voja gets. It totally makes sense. This deck is very good. Voja is very strong, hard to interact with, can come down very, very remarkably quick with the ramp that we have. And it just gets through, And the fact that it's an attack trigger, not even a combat trigger, woo, baby, that is some spiciness. So yeah, that's Voja. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's super fun. I've been looking for an elf deck. Most of the decks I've put together that are elf-based, they just don't like me. I don't get the mana, I don't get the dorks, I don't get what I need. But Voja so far has been really, really nice. So hope you enjoyed this. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!